Hello, 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 everyone. Okay, people will join throughout the call. In case you have been on a call before, you know the drill. I'm looking at you, Jeff. And but for those of us that might be new or unfamiliar with it, I have put Steve under very, very strict instructions to ignore the chat. So if you send nice, endearing little chat messages to him, he's not being rude. He is not allowed to look at it, but questions are more than welcome in the chat box, and then I'll filter them to Steve throughout the call. The quirkier, the better. We love quirky here. Um, Anything out of left field. And I will all have a wonderful time. And if you do want to say something to Steve, feel free to stick it in the chat, and I will send him a copy of the chat after the call so he won't miss out on anything. So this is going to be a fabulous, we have got people coming in left, right, and center. So much for this time of year. Nobody's going to join live, Steve. They're still joining. Okay. So for the people that have just joined, quirky questions, welcome. Any other questions in the chat? I'll filter them through to Steve throughout the call. He's under strict instructions to ignore the chat box, so he's not ignoring you, I promise. So, and yes, Jeff, Steve is freaking awesome. I agree completely. And there are still more people joining. Seriously, Steve, you've got like a fan club. Okay,
Oh
and
no.
more. Okay, I'm going to be busy. Okay, well, you just take care of yourself over there. I'm just going to sit and let people into the call all long. Okay, Steve Corona, we have been trying to have this call for a very, very long time. The first time we discussed it, I had said to you, I had you on the list. Um, Now, my list is not a proactive thing because I tend to spend all my time reacting when people bring it up, and then I never get to this long list of people. But I actually, very early on, had a couple of people ask if I could interview you. And yeah, and I get the impression that everyone just loves Steve Corona. And I want to find out what the secret ingredient is. And let's start at 10 years old. Tell
10
me
years
about
old.
10-year-old Steve Corona. What was he thinking? What was he dreaming? What was he? Tell me about him. Get me in the head of 10-year-old Steve Corona. What was your world? Where were you living?
10-year-old Steve Corona. Wow, that's a trip back down memory lane. I was living in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And sometimes you'll hear my Milwaukee accent coming out. Uh,
Is that where Laverne and Shirley lived?
yeah, absolutely.
Oh, I love Milwaukee.
Schlemiel, Schlemal, and all that. Hass Pfeffer, something incorporated.
Shamil, Shamal, Hoffen,
Yeah,
Rutherford,
yeah,
something,
yeah.
yeah.
So I'm in Milwaukee. It's the 80s. Let's see. I grew up, okay, I was born in 81. So 10 years old, it was 91, 1991. All right. It was an interesting time growing up in the 80s and 90s in Milwaukee. Honestly, I was fourth of five kids. So I was like the entertainer. I was the goofball of the family. I found out early on I had a kind of a gift for mimicry. So I would, copy cartoon characters, movie characters for my siblings just to get a laugh out of them.
Very cool.
And so, we're sitting around, we're goofing around. Also, something I liked to do was we would sit around and read to each other. We were a strange family that way. We would read out loud. We would take turns, and I got a few more turns than my siblings because they enjoyed, we would be reading Lord of the Rings or something like that, and I would really be getting into the characters. And my siblings were like, "Wow, how do you do that?" I'm like, "I don't know. I saw it on TV." So I just had fun, storytelling from an early age. I remember, okay, about 10 years old, we had a movie theater nearby. It was called the Avalon Theater. This thing was like Art Deco. It was built, I think, in the 40s. It was legitimate old school golden age of
Cool.
Hollywood. And we would walk to it. It was within walking distance from our house, and it was a dollar theater. So even though we were broke kids, we would be going to that movie theater every chance we got. And it was like stepping back into time. I was transported. I didn't even care what the movie was. I think one of the first ones I remember seeing there was Crocodile Dundee, you know,
Yeah,
which
yeah.
also gave me a love of the way that different people speak. And I was like, wow, that Australian guy, Paul Hogan, he's amazing. I want to be like him, you know. So that's what we were doing. We were just kind of, kicking the can around the neighborhood and go out in the morning and be back before the street lights turn on. That's the era I grew up in. And
Sounds like a Stephen King movie before the bad
yeah,
stuff happens.
okay, my daughter's into Stranger Things. I look at that, I'm like, whoa, this is trippy. It's like I'm looking back in my childhood, so much
Yeah.
familiar. The Dungeons and Dragons, the riding the bikes everywhere. So yeah, I guess that was kind of my childhood. Um, that's where we can start. How about that?
I love that. It's like the collective idea of, because I grew up in California and we didn't have all that stuff, but still, when I see the shows and everything, it gives me fond memories of childhood, even though it's not actually my childhood. That's like the American childhood, what we kind of picture. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, yeah. Oh, I love that. Okay, so happy kid. Were you living in the moment or were you thinking about the future?
A little bit of each. I think I've always been a little contemplative. My brother just immersed himself in video games all the time. He lived in front of that box. I was like, I don't know what else is around the neighborhood. Let me go explore 3 blocks away. Let me see what's going on over there. Let me sit in this quiet spot that I found and think about what might the future look like. My brain was always the wheels are always turning. Um, and especially with the movies, and I would go to the movies and think to myself, wow, what would that be like someday to be able to do that? I want to be the person on the screen that makes other people watching this thing feel something, be affected somehow. Maybe for a moment step out of your life if it's miserable or whatever and just feel something else and go to a different place, you know? So those were the things I was thinking about even back then. And I was always
Did you
observing people,
did you
right?
like school though? Did you get along in school?
School was okay. I was more interested in living in my mind, I think. Um, I was always really goofy. Oh, I remember getting bullied, right? Because my family didn't have a lot of money growing up. And I remember thinking to myself, aha, if I can be clever, then they'll leave me alone. I can use my brain to defeat this enemy. And I did. I remember one kid, um, he looked at my shoes one time. They had duct tape on them. They're secondhand, hand me down, hole in the sole of the shoe. And I'm like, whatever. It's on my foot. At least I'm not walking around getting cut on broken glass or something. And the kid says, "Oh, you got duct tape on your shoes, huh?" And I'm like, "Yeah." Oh, that's so embarrassing. He's like, "Yeah, it is." I'm like, "Yeah, man. I meant to bring the ones with electrical tape around them. I brought the wrong pair today." And he looked at me like, "What? What? Hold on. I'm supposed to be the one making fun of you, but you flipped it around." And he's at a loss for words. My friends are laughing hysterically because they saw what I did. They're like, you turned it around on him. But I learned early on if you can't make fun of yourself, you know, then you're gonna struggle in life because if you let people make fun of you, you give them the power.
Yeah. So a performer. Okay, so I'm going to fast forward
All right.
from the idyllic childhood. Eventually, we all run into a rough patch where we question who we are, where we're going, and things get difficult. Dark nights of the soul and all that. Some of us it's earlier, some of us it's later. I'm interested in, don't put yourself in a place where it's too uncomfortable.
Hmm.
I'm interested in when you first faced your first significant challenge, what your thought process was through it, and then how you got to the other end of it.
Mm. Yeah, that's good. It's a lot to chew on. Well, it's funny that you say I had an idyllic childhood because I think that's just the way that I perceived it, you know? I made it that way.
Yeah.
Looking back, I'm like, man, we kind of lived in poverty. Um, I remember walking home from school with my younger sister and hearing a gunshot somewhere. I'm like, oh, I recognize what that sound is. I don't think she knew. And to protect her, I told her, oh, I think that was just a car backfiring. Let's walk a little faster, you know?
Oh no.
So, you know what I mean? Like I was already telling stories back then to make things a little better. So,
Yeah.
um,
You were curating
I
your
don't know if
view
there's
of
any one
life.
defining moment.
I love the way, so as a
Yeah,
child,
that's
you
hard.
curated life, didn't
I
you?
mean, I guess I think of,
Wait,
yeah,
Steve, wait,
yeah.
you
Oh,
cut off for a minute. We couldn't hear you for a minute. Are
okay.
you
Am I
there?
still here?
Yeah,
Okay.
you're there now. Okay.
I'm still here. I promise. I haven't left. Um, I guess if I had to fast forward a little bit into high school, I could pinpoint my parents' divorce as being particularly a hard time to get through. Um, I was a freshman in high school, and you're kind of oblivious. Again, fourth of five kids, so you kind of want to just be a kid and play around, and you're sort of oblivious to some of the adult stuff that happens behind closed doors. And you know, again, without going into too much detail, I found out a lot more later on in life that my parents were having um, issues that I didn't even realize they were. But at one point, I was sort of separated from my siblings, which was hard. Um,
Why?
and I had to try to make sense of it.
Why?
Well, my mom took me and my younger sister um, away. We went to a different part of the country where we had some other family, and kind of middle of the night, and my dad didn't even know about it until the next day. And so that was hard. I all of a sudden it's like one day I'm with my family, the next day I'm somewhere else, and it's
Were
me and
you
my
allowed
sister.
to contact your father? Were you allowed to talk to your father?
Eventually on the phone. But this
Oh,
is before cell
Steve.
phones, right? This is before cell phones.
But
So
that's
I had to get on the
traumatic.
landline.
How old were
Yeah.
you at this point? That must have been
And
traumatic.
like 15, 16, something like that.
And were
And
you still trying to weave a good story out of it? Were you still trying to self-soothe and say that everything was
I
okay?
kind of, but I think that's when I became what I call myself an optimistic realist. I like to try to see the good in things, but I'm aware that not everything in life is good. There are some terrible things that happen, some things that we don't want to happen. Um, but I really started to begin at that point to form that perspective on life that, you know what, it really is what you make of it. And maybe it sucks right now that I'm not with my siblings who I love very much and I miss them, but at least I have one. I have my youngest sister with me. At least I'm near my cousins. Okay, I haven't seen them for a while, right? We get to hang out. I'm in this new place, this new experience. Let me give it a try.
Oh, you're
But
still trying to look on the bright side.
but it was hard. Yeah, I can't help it. I'm Mr. Brightside, I'm Mr. Optimism. But it was about then that I really started to get a harsh, dose of reality that you can look for the bright side. Sometimes you have to look a little harder, but it really is there if you look for it. So my light has never fully dimmed, you know?
Yeah, I love that. It's so funny, but it brings you back to the nature nurture thing because I was a foot stomper and you can see it in all the pictures. Big frown. You are not going to do this to me. I'm gonna, like, I don't think I would have been looking on the bright side. I would have been like, I am never speaking to you again, mother, until you get father on the phone right this minute. It's, but I love, I kind of wished I'd had a little bit of that when I was young. I think that's an admirable trait. I bet it served you well in life.
Well, I guess at one point I just figured sometimes you just have to kind of accept where you're at in life and all the
That right
fighting.
there, I still haven't started doing that
Well,
yet.
and listen, it's not like I'm always at a Zen place, you know what I mean? But I guess maybe that's my logical part of my brain is like, what can you really affect right now? Is throwing a fit, is all of, is wishing gonna change anything? Not really. So what can I do in my present circumstances, you know?
But then time-wise, energy-wise, because
Yeah,
I have always fought against things I didn't like. And I realized recently how much all that mental fight, how much time that takes.
right.
Literal time. You get things done a lot faster if you just like do what you can.
Yeah, it drains you, right? It drains you to
Yeah.
fight battles that you're not meant to win.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So you're still holding steady, keeping looking on the bright side of life. What's next for you?
So after that experience, I get separated. My dad did eventually come down, and I don't know if you want to say rescued us. He brought us back home, my sister and I. Well, my sister actually stayed with my mom a little bit beyond. Okay, he came and got me first. So I feel bad. My sister was sort of, she felt extra abandoned, like, oh, you couldn't get us both at the same time. Um, so I came back up home, and it was very awkward because I had left this high school thinking I was never going to see these people again. And I came back at the end of that same school year, and people were like, wait, what are you doing here? We made
But
peace with
you
the
did,
fact we were never going to
but
see
you
you
did,
again.
you didn't leave saying, and the other thing, I've always thought you were a little bit
No,
obnoxious.
no, I didn't. No, I didn't do that. I said
Okay.
my goodbyes and thought that I was moving on. And so when I came back, I was always sort of an outsider. I was like, oh, okay. I guess I don't get to be a part of that friend group anymore. Or, I mean, they kind of are accepting of me, but they're like leery. Everyone was sort of giving me this look like, is he sticking around this time or is he going to leave again? Um, Fast forward a little bit more. So I stay at that high school for 2 or 3 more years. My senior year, my dad gets a job in Minnesota. I'm living with him. I have no choice. What am I going to do? I'm a minor. I have nobody else to live with. So we moved to Minnesota from Wisconsin. Um, so brand new school. Let's do this again. Third high school.
Wow. Wow. I think
Again,
that's good for you though. I do.
I
I know
mean,
it's
yes
hard,
and
but
no. Yeah, I agree.
yeah.
I agree. I think it was good because it taught me the lesson of figuring out how to exist in any environment, regardless of who I knew, how many friends I already had. It was like, just talk to people and maybe you'll like some people, maybe you won't. Maybe you'll fit in with some people. If not, okay, no problem. Moving on. There's always going to be another group of people.
You get to reinvent yourself. I mean, in
Yeah.
my case, it was because I got in a slight bit of trouble sneaking out in the middle of the night. I got to change
Naughty,
schools.
naughty.
But you get to reinvent yourself.
Yeah.
You get to
Yeah.
be, I mean, saying that I had a whole different identity. I'd stay up late at night and lie about who I was to people and then like sneak out and try to live that life. But when they moved me to the new school, I kept up the lie and told everyone my name was Lisa. And I lived as Lisa for 4 years until a dodgy boyfriend tattooed it on his shoulder. And I was like,
You're like,
joke
who's
on
Lisa? Oh.
you. It's not my name. But my point, which
Yeah.
took me a while to get to, was every time you move to a different country or a different school, it feels like gut-wrenchingly hard at some point, but you get to become a different person,
Yep.
right? And the
Yep.
more different people we become, the bigger of a person we are.
So I love what you're saying there. And that brings me to towards the end of my senior year. I was like, I don't really know these people. They've been together for 4 years. I'm this weird random dude. I've always wanted to try this acting thing. I was in like little school plays and stuff like throughout grade school, but those hardly counted. It was everyone was just being silly and like, oh, look how adorable. But I'm like, I really want to give this acting thing a go. I've wanted to, but my previous high school, I was like, I didn't really fit in with the acting kids. Like they were
Yeah.
so,
You had a
whatever.
clean slate at this
Yeah.
school.
I was
Yep,
like, nobody
exactly.
knows or cares. I'm going to give it a shot. By the time I got up the gumption to actually ask the director, I'm like, okay, I know you're doing the spring plate and I know you've already had auditions, but is there anything left? And he's like, well, we've got, what was it called? Shoot, I can't even remember the name of the play, but it was like, it took place in this fictional country and he needed soldiers 1 and 2 or 2 and 4 or something like that. So he gave me those. It was like 3 lines in the whole play. And you just combined them into one role. And I got to like fire an arrow, backstage into a target, but it looked like I was, shooting at the enemy or whatever. I was like, this is cool. This is fun. So I was like, I was excited. I'm like, yes, I get to do this acting thing. I get to get on stage. Well, I had also met this beautiful girl who ended up fast forward. She's my wife now. Oh, we get a little zoom. That's my camera.
That's
Um,
very, did you do that on purpose?
Cinematic. I
Did
didn't
you?
do it on
Because
purpose.
there's always a girl, and then
Yeah,
there was the girl. Pan
right.
out.
And then there's the girl. There's always a girl. So I met her, and she asked
There.
me to
Wait, wait,
show.
wait, wait, wait. You
Okay,
got to
yeah.
know this audience a little better than that, Steve. You can't fast forward through that.
All right, all right. I
Where?
met a girl
What was she
because
wearing?
I
Eyes
worked
across a
at.
crowded
All
room.
right.
Tell us the deets.
Okay, I'll give you the deets. We'll unpackage this a little bit. So I was working at a department store in the men's department, and her sister was working at the Clinique counter selling, perfumes and makeup and all that. And I actually thought she was kind of cute. I was kind of flirting with her, and she gently let me down. It was like, okay, like age difference, plus like I'm not really interested in you. But my sister, you should totally. I'm like, no, she's out of my league. I had seen her once or twice, and I just honestly thought, I'm like, there's no way she would go out with a schmuck like me.
Wait, you didn't tell the sister that her sister was out of your league.
I did. I was like,
Oh
she's out of my
no!
league. There's no
But
way.
but you're hitting on the sister
No,
who's
it was
obviously
terrible.
not out of your league.
She was too. Listen, the whole family, anyway. So she's like, no, 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 no. You should totally you should go out with my sister. And so we go to her house and we're going for a run, me and her older sister that we worked together. So we went for a run. We were just literally just getting exercise around town. I was in cross country. But on going to the house to meet up with her to start the run, I peek in and there she is. Bridget's sitting there. She's watching TV. I'm like, oh, hey there. How you doing? So we met, there was sparks, the eyes and connected and everything. And she eventually found me at work where I was selling men's clothing. And she asked me about a pair of men's athletic pants or something. And, oh, what do you think? Would these look good on me? And I, of course, lied. It was like, oh, those would look fantastic on you. Let's try those on. So she tries them on and they're baggy. They're like, five sizes too big. Oh, those are great. You should totally get those. So we're flirting and she buys the pants. I think she still has them somewhere. Anyway, um,
Well, of course,
this is
because
a
memory.
terrible story of how we met. This is awful. People should be more romantic than this. So we meet up. I sell her some terrible men's large pants. Um, we we started going out. She went to a different high school than me, and our proms were at different times.
Wait, you're still in high
I'm
school
still
and
in
you
high
met
school. This is my
your
this is my senior year of high school. Yeah, yeah.
and this is your wife.
Now, yeah.
That is really
I don't know how
romantic.
I pulled that off, but she stayed with me. I don't know.
That's a long time. That
It
is really
is. You're
romantic.
calling me old? No, I am old. I am old.
No, we're all
We,
old, but I
we've been
mean,
married for like 23 years at this point.
that's yeah, but we're all old, but that's still a long time to like marry your childhood sweetheart. That very rarely happens except in
Yeah,
Hallmark.
I know. We're very fortunate, but we've worked hard. We're very dedicated to each other.
It's
So
romantic. I love that.
thank you, thank
I
you.
completely lost, like, I
So
think,
so we're dating. We're dating, but going to different high schools.
yes.
And I had already signed on to this play, and I'm like, yeah,
Oh, yes, yes, yes,
I
yes.
get to be an actor. I get to be on stage. And she's like, let's go to the prom. And I'm like, yes, let's do it. And I didn't realize that they were the same day, the play and her prom. And I was like, oh no, I've
Mm.
committed to two things at the same time. Uh-oh, how do I get myself out of this one? Because I don't want to let the director down. I really want that chance to be an actor, to do the acting thing, but I definitely don't want to let her down. She's my girlfriend. She's beautiful. I want to go to the prom with her. Wait a minute. Can we do both? Is that a possibility? So
Mm.
we hatched the two of us. My wife is brilliant. She's like, okay, let's think about this. Now, obviously, I would prefer you just to go to the prom with me, but if you absolutely have to do both, let's figure it out. And this is something I love about her. She's always helped me throughout the years figure my way out of situations I get myself into. So she says, okay, you only have lines at the beginning and the end of the play, right?
Oh no.
Yeah.
Oh
Okay.
no.
She was on the prom committee, and so she was able to pull some strings. Her dad was working the prom as a parking attendant. So here's what we did. Night of the play opens up. I'm in full makeup, costume, everything for the stage. I get on at the beginning. I say my lines. I zip out backstage. I go out the backstage door. I run out into the parking lot. She's there waiting in the getaway car. I'm not making this up. I jump in the back seat. She tears out of the parking lot. She's driving. Her school was, I don't know, uh, 10, 15 miles away, something like that. She's driving like a bat out of hell. I'm changing out of my costume into my tux. I'm putting that on. I'm looking in the mirror. I'm like, do you think anyone would be able to tell I have all this stage makeup on? You'll be fine. It's going to be in the dark. Okay. We get there. We zip in. I'm zipping my pants up as we're pulling into the parking spot. Her dad is there. He moves the cone. We get into the parking spot so we can walk into the back door of the gym where they're doing the processional. We're walking through. We stand. We pose. We take our little picture together. Okay. All right. We turn back around. We run back out into the parking lot. She gets back in. She's driving. I'm changing out of my tux. I'm putting back on my costume. We get back to my high school, run in the back door. I'm panting. I'm sweating. I'm dripping all over the place. My friend's like, where the hell were you? We had to stall for you. I'm like, what? That's the point that we're at already? They're like, yes. Uh, okay. And I'm trying to listen. I'm like, okay, I know where he's at. I come running on like nothing ever happened. I say my line and I leave. We finish the play, we do the curtain call and everything. The director was never the wiser. We get to graduation. The teacher's coming through the graduation line. I'm chuckling. My friends near me are chuckling. He's like, what's so funny? I shake his hand. Too late now, sucker. He's like, what? I'm like, I'm graduated. You had to get into me. And he's like, what are you talking about? I'm like, you didn't even know. I was gone during most of that play and I came back. He's like, what? I'm like, again, too late now. So I got my diploma. I got the heck out of there. That's how we did it. There you
And
go.
thus began an acting career. And Kim
Thus
says,
began.
oh my God,
Exactly.
this is something out of a YA rom-com.
I mean,
Okay, so none of us started off as audiobook narrators because that was only a few years ago that audiobooks became big. But you were an actor, or you are an actor, but you started off as an actor. And did you ever have dark nights of the soul where you were full of self-doubt and worry, or have you always just brought that optimism,
hmm,
glass half full, with you into this career?
that's a very good question. That's packed with a lot of stuff. First, let me just back up and say that I remember listening to literally books on tape, cassettes from the
Yep.
library when I was a kid
Yep, me
and
too.
thinking, I was like, oh, that's kind of a cool thing. Like, yeah, let me kind of bookmark that for later in life. And it wasn't until, of course, mid 2000s when I thought, oh, remember that thing I did as a kid and I listened to, I'm like, I could actually do that. So it was like 2008, I want to say. I had started getting into the acting scene here in Albuquerque, started doing some film acting, TV, trying to break in, you know what I mean? Like small little parts or background or whatever. And I met a sound engineer, Eddie. He's a really cool guy. He helped me set up my first home studio. The thing was like 300 bucks all in,
Well,
cheapest microphone and preamp and closet setup with, I barely had
and
room to
then
stick
wait,
it
are you
there.
already an actor at this point?
I mean, I considered myself an actor because I had graduated with my bachelor's and master's degree in acting from a theater school, and I felt all official and look at me, I know what I'm doing as an actor, and I got that smacked right out of me real fast
Were you
when
doing
I
the
first.
headshots to the agents thing and
Oh
all
yeah,
that?
the headshots,
Yeah.
and I go out to auditions, and I remember auditioning for like this big casting director for film here in New Mexico and leaving and thinking, oh my God, she's never going to want to see me again. That was way over the top, big theatrical, and she kept trying, God bless her, trying to have me turn it down a few notches. This isn't theater. And I learned real quick there's a big difference across different media that we play in. Thank God, she did bring me back, and eventually she's cast me a few times in things. Thankfully, she gave me another chance, but I was like, I blew that so hard. So while I'm on set, I'm trying to do the film thing. I'm also trying to get into voice acting.
Wow.
And so I'm doing the typical thing. This is 2008, you know what I mean? Like there's not a whole lot available, but I'm like, okay, pay to play sites. I'm going to try the free thing at first, set up my profile, put up a couple samples. I guess I got to pay a little something to get more opportunities to audition, things like that. I was trying everything. I was banging my head against the wall. Couldn't book. It was like 3 months in. I'm like, what am I doing wrong? I started reading more voice acting books and listening to, the CDs that came with the books and watching whatever videos were available online back then, which wasn't a whole lot, and trying to like be honest with myself. Okay, what did you not do well last time? What could you improve on this time? How can we grow? So I started, I think, refining my technique a little bit. And finally, I was like, all right, I'm not booking anything. You know what I haven't done yet? I haven't made a sample for an audiobook yet. I hear that's a thing. So so I quick made a sample, put it up on my pay to play site, and walked away. The next day, a producer reaches out to me. She says, "Hey, I'm so and so from this small audiobook production company in Texas, I think it was, and we like your sample that you just put up, and we're wondering if you'd be interested in doing a handful of these abridged titles. They were all, public domain, like Black Beauty and Red Badge of Courage and stuff like that." I'm like, "Yeah, that'll be awesome. Let's do it." I had no idea at that point what the rate should be, and I just agreed to whatever they paid me. And I was like, great, I'm getting paid to be a voice actor. This is fantastic. So I did a handful of those, and then I didn't know what I know now. Had I known what I know now, I would have kept after the audiobook work. But
Wait,
I'm
can I
like,
stop you? Can
yeah,
I
please
stop you
do.
here? Because you've hit on something that's really fascinating to me. It's my current little like rabbit hole. I have a different rabbit hole every week. Um, the difference between the newbie love and enthusiasm,
Mm,
and then once you learn, because you don't know what's when I listened to, I was the same as you, the books on tape from the library, Agatha Raisin, Penelope Keith. I listened to every single one I could get my hands on over and over. But I didn't realize there was a person behind that narrate. I mean, I knew it. I'm not stupid, but it was like TV. I completely lost myself in it for the joy of it.
hmm
And the more I learned about the business, I realized recently some of that joy dims. Not that you don't love it as much, but you you become not cynical, but you have a different picture of
hmm
what it is. It becomes the business,
Right.
the
It becomes
nuts
a
and bolts.
job. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
rather than the enthusiasm and joy when you thought it was a whole world and you forgot that there wasn't a real Agatha Raisin. Do you know what I mean? It's
Yeah,
it's
yeah, yeah.
it's how do you, and because I think it affects people's acting. I think that subconsciously listeners miss that joy
hmm
when seasoned narrators have been doing it for a very long time. Do you see the believing in the wonderland, believing in the make believe, that it's like the difference between a child and an adult. And I think in everything in life, when we become an adult, see, I told you it was a rabbit hole. I'm not going to take over your whole call with my rabbit hole.
No, it's good.
I'm really interested in your view about that and how, and if you have any suggestions as to
hmm
how. And I think the reason I'm asking you, not that you've said that you have managed to, but every single thing about your visage, your face, your mannerisms, you exude enthusiasm and childish wonder. And I think those are qualities that a lot of us, quote unquote, adults are missing. And
Yeah.
I'd like to hear what you think
Mm,
about that.
I love that. I love that so much. Ah, yes, that childlike wonder and sense of play and imagination. Absolutely. I think partly I never lost it entirely. I didn't have to like rediscover it so much as just like every now and then I have to remind myself and rekindle the flame a bit. But what really helped me is my kids. Because
Mm.
again, I mentioned 2008, I did those handful of books and then I took a decade off before coming back.
Because when you
But
talked about them, you were like bubbling.
yeah,
You
yeah,
could
yeah,
see
yeah.
the old excitement
Yeah,
in your face. And I'm
right.
fascinated by how you still feel that excitement, how you
Right.
held on to that
Yeah.
excitement.
So during that decade period where I wasn't doing audiobooks, I was still pursuing and booking every now and then film and
Yeah.
TV work, but I was a full-time dad. So I took that job very
Okay.
seriously as, you know, it, in a silly sort of way, but very seriously. I want to make sure my kids were loved, that they knew that it was okay to be themselves and be who they are and be goofy and silly. And I read to them for like 14 years straight, like
Oh,
every night. And I know, and that's a special thing in my heart. But honestly, that was like the best audiobook training I ever got because over that time, I'm reading, at first it's little kid books, it's Berenstain Bears and Curious George and all this. But then eventually it evolves. My daughter starts getting interested in slightly older books. We're reading Little House on the Prairie, and I found out real quick that that helps put her to sleep fast. Um,
Yeah, that would put anyone to
I
sleep.
was more interested in it than she was. But the Harry Potter books, this is really cool. I have to say this. Before my kids were born, my wife educated me that at about 3 months in utero, babies can hear outside voices and start to recognize them. I thought, okay, my kids are going to know my voice when they come into this world. So I read all the Harry Potter books, the entire series, through, into the womb. Hello, in there. Listen to me. I'm reading to you a story. My wife is like, after a while, let me fall asleep first, please, before you start reading. She couldn't stand some of the voices I was.
But Steve, I don't understand. I'm not understanding this. How do you filter out the pressure from society
Mhm.
to be negative? How do you filter that out? You feel like you seem untainted by it. I've never met anyone
I
that's
don't know
managed to
about
reach your
untainted.
age, but you
It's
seem like you're holding on to joy, and I'm fascinated by how.
Thank you. And I think it's because it's my life mission. Honestly, there's so much darkness in the world. Someone's got
Yes.
to be the light. Might as well be
Yeah.
me, you know? Um, there, honestly, listen, even these days, I tell my wife, please don't tell me any of the negative news of the day until I've had my coffee. I need
Yeah.
some joy in my life. I need to perk up before I'm able to, okay, now I can process. Go ahead, hit me. Let me disseminate the negativity and all right, let's find the good again. You know what I mean? Like it's not like
So
the
it's a
negative
conscious
doesn't affect me.
exercise.
It's a
It's a
conscious
conscious
exercise.
exercise.
There we go.
Okay.
Yeah. It's a lifelong pursuit of trying to find the good in life because it's there if you look for it.
Yeah, I admire
Um,
the hell out
yeah.
of that because I was always over enthusiastic and happy. And I mean, I still am as a human being, but that joy takes like a lot of energy
I
and
used to drive people crazy because I was too positive. They're
yeah,
like,
me too.
dude,
We see, because you're a
can you just
guy. You're
yeah.
a guy. When I was a girl, too positive, they just thought I was stupid because it's the happy women society is not so
Mm, that
they
sucks.
when you're young and gorgeous, society loves you anyway because you've got subtle resilient skin or whatever. But when you get a little bit older and you're over enthusiastic and you smile a lot, society as a female, society, and maybe it's just my impression. I
They're
don't
like,
know,
what's
maybe
wrong
others
with
do.
you? Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But I do know a lot of women that act very stern and adult and serious because they
That
want to
is
be taken
unfortunate.
seriously.
Yeah,
I think as a man, it's a little easier in
you're
this
probably
day
right.
and
Yeah.
age.
My three sisters raised me, so I have a different perspective, I think, than
Yeah.
a lot of guys maybe my age.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and I'm not saying that there's anything you would have done or said or that it's unfair or anything. I just think
yeah.
that
No, you're right. You're
a
right.
man being joyful and enthusiastic is charming as hell these days.
Maybe, but it was annoying too. I'll be honest. Like, I annoy myself sometimes. I'm like, dude, like everything's not always happy and smiles, and like, you can acknowledge that some bad stuff happens sometimes.
But
But then you
why
can get over
dwell?
it and you can move on and you can learn through it. I
Yeah,
always
why
said the
dwell?
glass isn't half empty or half full. It's all full of something.
And okay, I'm not like a
Air, water.
celebrity person. Like I don't know celebrities like at all, but you actually met Gerard Butler. He's
Yeah, yeah.
so dreamy.
He is. He
Is
really is.
it- So, could you possibly tell us in a very, obviously for professional reasons, about meeting Gerard Butler? What was it like?
Oh man, that guy.
What was that? When was this in your career? Like, I'm confused. So, you did audiobooks for a Texas
Yep,
company, you raised
yep,
children.
yep.
When did you get on set teaching A-list actors dialects? All joking aside
Oh
about Gerard. I mean, he is dreamy, but all joking aside, when did that happen?
man, how old? My daughter, I think, was maybe only just a couple years old. It was like 2008 or 9. Yeah, my daughter, I think, was just born. No, it was right before she was born, 2008. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I went to grad school and got my master's degree. And while I was there, I learned, oh, dialects, accents. This speaks to me. My mind was blown open when I realized, wait a minute. You don't just have to listen and mimic. You can actually like break it down and look at the sounds and find the rules and ooh,
Oh
this is
my
fun.
gosh. Yeah, I
So
heard
I
that and
loved
it
it.
put me off accents. That's
Yeah,
yeah, but I haven't, I think some people are really born to it. If you can
yeah,
mimic,
yeah.
then your brain
So
obviously, yeah.
absolutely. So I learned that about myself that I loved it. And when I moved to Albuquerque and I started, I'm like, okay, I'm going to hit the ground running. I'm going to try to meet all the people and build my network and all this. And I went to some casting director workshops, and they got to know me because I kept coming back and they're like, I noticed that like just hearing you in conversation, you just randomly pop into different accents. And also, like I've seen some of your scene work that you do in accents, and a lot of actors like shy away from that, but you
Yeah.
just like, jump in because you love it. I'm like, yeah, yeah, yeah. And she's like, this one casting director, would you be interested in maybe the next workshop I do, setting aside like maybe a half hour of my workshop and you could try to teach them some things about accents? I'm like, yeah, okay. In grad school, my teacher told me I should consider being a dialect coach when I graduated. I didn't know what that was at that point. But this was that moment in the casting director workshop when I thought, hmm, yeah, let's give this a go. Let's see what happens. So I did, and I did it a couple times, and she thought, wow, that's really fascinating. You clearly have an understanding and a passion for this. So she had me come back a couple more times. Life happened. I'm doing my day job. This is a few months later. I get a call. I'm at work, and the guy on the other end of the phone says, "Hey, this is the UPM, the production manager from such and such a movie. This casting director is local. She tells me that you are maybe who I need to talk to. We're working on this film. There's a Scottish actor. Maybe you've heard of him. His name is Gerard Butler." I'm like, "What? No." And I'm like, "Yeah, of course I've heard of him." And he had a dialect coach, but we had to let her go midway through production. We're scrambling. We need someone local. Can you come in tomorrow? I'm like, yeah, sure. Okay. I'm like, I mean, I could try it out, but they're like, listen, if he likes you, we're going to need you for the duration, the rest, like the month or two that we still have left to film this thing. Okay. Because he needs to sound American. All right. So at that moment, I took the leap of faith. I quit my job on the spot, not even knowing if I was going to work out or not. I just had that kind of faith in myself and in the situation. I'm like, this just feels like it was meant to be. You know what I mean? I'm
Yeah,
going
I'm
all
married to a guy from Glasgow. I can't even imagine how to make him sound American.
in. Well, I just kind of reverse engineered what I learned in grad school about how to learn a Scottish accent, and I just did the thing backwards. But so I show up the next night, I meet him. Um, I don't think he would mind me telling you this. His pants were off when I met him. I mean, he was in his skivvies, but he was getting dressed for the next scene. So I met Gerard Butler with his pants off the first time. But I walk in, we're joking around, and he's just kind of asking me some questions about myself. Midway through conversation, he's like got ADHD or something, and he's all over the place. He's like, "Oh, watch these scenes that we filmed yesterday. They're hilarious. You're gonna love them." I'm like, "All right." So we're sitting there watching scenes. They knock on the door. "Okay, Mr. Butler, we're ready for you." I'm like, "What? Already?" I'm like, "Okay, I guess that was the interview." Apparently, I passed. I walk out with him. We're quickly running his lines, from the sides on the way to set in the vehicle. And he's like, "All right, just tell me how to say my lines." I'm like, "Okay, you say it like this." And then he repeats after me. I'm like, "Okay, that was close. Maybe we can tweak this little thing." "Okay, yeah, that's it. That's it right there." "Okay, so do it like this." "Yep, that's it." We get on set, literally. He refreshes his lines with me once. He turns around, tells the director, "Okay, let's go." They call action. I'm like, "Whoa, that was fast." So I learned real quick, like that faster pacing of film work. But we still have time, right? I can roll this into the
Yeah,
story
yeah,
about
yeah,
Gerard
yeah.
Butler's
No,
mom.
no.
Okay. So Gerard Butler's mom shows up. This is like a couple
I know
weeks
because
in.
John's saying something about Gerard Butler's grandmother.
Oh, I think he meant mom. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Mom.
I've
Okay.
told him the story.
Okay. Okay, so his mom shows up.
His mom shows up. He tells me that morning, "All right, my mom's going to be on set today. This is going to be great. All right, you've been hanging out with me. Your Scottish accent, I think, is fairly passable." "Okay, thanks." That kind of sounds like a compliment. "I want you to do it in front of my mom. I want you to do your Scottish accent." I'm like, "Oh boy, here we go." Okay, like he's my boss. What am I going to tell him? No? The guy, he's responsible for me being there. Okay, let's do this. Let's roll. His mom shows up. Cute little, like she was Mrs. Doubtfire, but like a foot shorter. She walks up, this hilarious, cute little Scottish lady. I'm like, how are you two related? He's this giant 6'2" or whatever, you know. Anyway, I'm talking. He's like, Mom, I want you to meet my friend. This is Steve. He didn't tell her who I was. That was his dialect coach or anything. And there we go, zooming in again for dramatic effect. My phone, I don't know what that is. And so she's like, "Oh, pleasure to meet you." And I'm like, "You as well, Mrs. Butler. Jerry's told me great things about you, and I he told me you were going to show up on set today." And so he's like, "Oh," and she literally like jumped backward a step, and she's like, "Where are you from, lad?" I'm like, "Oh, here we go." I didn't know anything about Scotland or geography. I'm like, "The north part." The north part, I said to her. She's like, "No, you're not." I'm like, "Oh, the jig is already up." She like smacks me. She's like, you're from Aberdeen, aren't you?" I'm like, sure." She's like, "I know that accent." I'm like, "Oh no, oh no." Gerard is literally on the ground, rolling around laughing. He's thinks it's the most hilarious. She's kicking him. "What's wrong with you? I'm talking to your friend Steve over here." I couldn't let it go too long. I'm like, "I'm so sorry, Mrs. Butler. Forgive me. Jerry put me up to it. I'm from Wisconsin." And she's like, "Oh, what?" She smacks me. "Yeah, you broke my heart. I thought you were really Scottish." So I fooled Gerard Butler's mom into thinking I was Scottish. So there you go. That's
But
what
I
I.
mean, that's quite an accent to dive in with, because I mean, I've been trying for what, 30 years to learn it. I've got Ken, and that's as
I.
far as I can get, and I don't even sound Scottish doing it. But
Oh, I've been again. I.
Ken. But okay, so mindset,
Mine's.
attitude, aside from what you were born with,
Yeah.
what have you learned over the years that you didn't know when you were younger,
Mm,
even pertaining to audiobooks
hmm
and recording, mindset, productivity? What lessons can you impart to us that you kind of wish you'd known that would have saved you a ton of time if you'd known earlier?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, um, I'm very glad that I did learn things kind of on my own. Kind of gives you a sense of pride of like, hey, I figured out how to do that thing. What I wish I knew was that there was other people who already knew how to do that thing before me better and more efficiently that I could have reached out to. But sort of living in the middle of nowhere in the desert in New Mexico, you know what I mean? It wasn't like I was in a large city where I could easily just walk down to a studio and go to the nearest workshop with such and such a person who knows what they're doing. I had to like learn through books and maybe a video here and there, a lot of trial and error. Um, so I wished that I realized there were those resources. They were available. They might have just been a little more difficult to get to, but I could have saved myself probably years. Uh,
But can I challenge that? I
okay.
went to a when I started recording audiobooks, I'd already done voiceover in other people's studios. I went to somebody that taught me about Pro Tools
Mm,
and all that. Like a couple of days, right? And I that I had to learn myself anyway. I just think 80% of the job you have to learn doing it.
yeah, yeah, totally.
Like,
I
do you
mean,
know
I
what I
taught
mean?
myself, yeah, how to use my DAW enough to hit record and stop and
Yeah.
some very basic editing stuff just to get me those first few jobs. But, over time, you're right. You learn, and maybe that's the thing that I've learned is that it's okay to take your time learning, that
Yeah.
everyone's on a different trajectory, different timeline.
Yeah.
It's really weird for me, Daniela, because I technically started before a lot of like the legends in our industry. Like in 2008, I did a handful of books and then I went away for a decade. And I hear, from people, they're like, "Oh, I've done 500 books. I started in 2010." I'm like, "What?"
Steve, do you not realize that you are one of the
Well,
legends?
I feel weird because it's like I started then, but then I went away and now I feel like I'm with that group that started like in 2018, 19, 20, right? Because
Yeah.
that's where the bulk of my work has been from that era forward.
No,
So
you're
I'm in like
not.
a weird time travel-y place.
You're not. I think maybe to yourself you feel like you are, but to
Yeah.
everyone else, you're a veteran.
You know what I was calling myself? I was talking to Andy Arndt on Clubhouse. I'm like, I feel like I'm a veteran newbie. Like, I am a veteran, like I have that experience,
Yeah.
but like I feel newish still because of like the lack of work, to show. You know what I mean? This was like 3 years
Yeah.
ago. I told her that.
But if you look at
Yeah.
some of the top-notch celebrity voiceovers, they don't necessarily have 500 books. Some of them have like less than a lot of people. They're
Mm-hmm.
very choosy about the books they choose, and they've got high profile books. I mean, but we don't question that because everyone else knows them as veterans. But I
Oh,
think we judge ourselves by
hmm,
numbers sometimes that aren't really relevant.
that I think brings up a very important point. I think what I've learned for myself is sometimes I've found success. I think I'm better at sometimes going against the grain a little bit. When
Mm,
everyone's doing this, everyone's going left, I'm going right. I'm like, well, what would it look like if I did this instead? If everyone's doing this, then I don't stand out if I do it too.
yeah.
If everyone's doing 100 books in a year, well, not everybody is, but I'm just using that as an imaginary metric. If everyone's doing 50 books in a year, what if I just do five, but really, really try to make those the best 5 books that I could possibly make, and still balance some life work balance with my family, you know? Um, would that be a better way to live than just cranking out work and disappearing to the world, you know?
I
So,
love because it's also
yeah.
deciding, don't you think it's deciding? It's just deciding for ourselves what it means and what it looks like.
Mm-hmm.
I had a big lesson. There's this book that's had thousands and thousands of reviews, and I don't never ever read reviews, okay?
I
Ever.
hate reviews. Yeah.
But I've become fascinated by this book um, for particular reasons. It's a thriller,
Mm.
and word thriller is in the title, or like something along that line, right? But because it's high profile writers, it's had tons of people buying it.
Mm-hmm.
And there are like 30% of those people leaving very bad reviews because, and this is what they say, this book is full of evil people. This book mentions sex and murder. These women are murdering people. And right there, the part of my brain that thought that the rest of the world knows what they like for a reason just went. I'm not saying I now think the rest of the world are idiots. I'm saying that,
Some of them are
like,
mean, though. They're just mean
but
for no reason.
like they're giving like 1 star reviews. I
Yeah.
mean, most people gave 5 star reviews, but the ones that gave 1 star reviews all were shocked that this book with thriller writers had evil people that committed murder in it. Why did you buy it? They bought it because it was famous. And I'm realizing what you said about if everyone goes right, I'm going to go left. My whole life, I've watched people join herds and people
Mhm.
that buy a book because everyone else is buying it, all the rich people, it's a famous book, I'm going to buy it and I'm going to leave a bad review because I could obviously didn't understand the title. I mean, I'm not being cruel here, but yeah, my patience for
Sure.
that. So to me, that's the herd. In my life, I've got like a hatred towards the herd. Think for yourself, buy what you want, do what you want. So the picture of your career, the way your career looks like, maybe it wouldn't pass through the herd filter, but the quality of what you've done, the times you've started, the interesting adventures and the side
Mhm.
gigs you've done along the way, and the gravitas of the wow, I mean, the dialect stuff, the mimicking, the pure golden talent.
Oh,
Decide for yourself. What kind of
yeah.
career is that? That's like celebrity status career. That's not heard.
Well, thank you. I just want to point out one thing real quick. I think I told John this the other day. My good friend John Hopkinson. I said, I feel like everything I've done in my life, in my career, in acting, has led up to me doing audiobooks because I'm
Yeah,
putting it all to good use. Every
yeah.
bit of theatrical training, every every bit of film acting, voice acting, everything, character
Even the
voices.
panning the camera in and out.
Yeah, my goodness. I
No,
feel like it's all coming, to a head, and I'm putting it to very good use in audiobook land, and I love it.
and
I
also
love it here.
the coaching, the teaching, the mindset, the
Mhm.
experience with other people, the always looking at the bright. I mean, it's just everything. It's like a magical formula that's brought you to where you are today. And I
I
think
like that.
it's lovely to have a conversation and hear the possibilities of a career well lived.
Mm, thank you. I like that. I like
Yeah.
that.
It's lovely.
Yeah. You know, and there's just something about audiobooks. It really is, like you said, magical, you know?
Yeah.
It's like on stage, I get to play Sherlock Holmes. Ooh, fantastic. That's fun. It's a role of a lifetime. And I thoroughly enjoyed it. In audiobook land, I get to work with people like Jeff and do 93 characters with 28 accents. That's
Total control.
incredible. What an
Total
amazing
control.
challenge.
All
Yeah.
your world. No one can tell you all your world. You get to be alone and live in these worlds.
So fun. So cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And even the hard bits push you. Even the nonfiction books about really unpleasant things that you
Hmm.
didn't realize how hard they would be. You kind of come out the other side like smarter. Like
Yeah.
there are some books I would never
Yes.
ever have read on my own,
I
ever.
love nonfiction because I get paid to learn stuff I didn't know before. I'm like, this is
Yeah.
great. I didn't
I
know this.
hate the thought of them,
Yeah.
but afterwards, you always learn
Yeah.
something from them.
Yep.
Always.
And maybe it's my dad experience, but I think I've learned in nonfiction books to really make it sound like I know what I'm talking about. I have no idea what I'm talking about, but I have to pretend like I do, like I wrote the book, you know? Um, I think that's what really good nonfiction narrators do is it makes it sound like you are the voice of the author, right? Um,
Yeah.
so like I have no idea about investment banking and all of this, and yet I have to sound like I do. Dear reader, here's what you do to be successful. I'm like, I wish I could learn these lessons myself, you know? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's great.
Yeah. And
I love it.
do you find yourself in charge of your emotions despite the content of the book?
Mm,
After the book? Do you feel ever let down or carried
mm.
away with the emotions of the book?
I think mostly, yes, I am in charge of my emotions. But man, sometimes though, I was recording a book. It was called the First Dog on Earth, and man, it was just such a special story. It was about, this wolf that left its pack. It's this epic fairy tale about a wolf that decides to live among humans back in like these tribal groups of people. No dialogue in the whole thing. It's all just narrated. But man, just thinking about these scenarios and like my heart broke. I'm not going to spoil the whole book, but when a certain character dies, I was torn. I was like, oh no. It was like a dagger in my heart. And I actually cried when I narrated it. And I was going to edit it out. And I thought, well, let me submit it and see what they think. And they said, no, keep that in. Keep that in. We want to hear you crack.
It's the true emotion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I wasn't, sobbing, breaking down completely, but just enough where you could hear it. You could hear that it
Yeah, I'm
really
still scarred
affected
from
me.
watching Bambi the
Oh
first
no.
time. So like I don't even watch Disney shows because they're gonna hurt the animal. And then what do I get? My last nonfiction, in-depth detail about animal testing during the war.
Oh.
I don't regret it. I'm so glad I did it. I learned so much. It changed my soul, but I've got to be honest. The subject was
Yeah.
like, I think it makes us better people.
Yeah.
We're facing the things that other people want to hear, but they're afraid to be right in the middle of it and
Yeah.
jump into the fire.
Yeah. And that's what I tell my kids about just acting in general is it's so cathartic. It's so healing to your soul to
Yeah.
allow yourself to process through the emotions and genuinely feel it and not pretend to
And
so
that's
that
what
your
AI can't
listener
do.
can connect with that. Yeah.
AI can't do that. That's why there's no reason to
Amen.
be afraid.
That's right.
Yeah. So,
Agreed.
Steve, if you could leave our YouTube audience that's going to be watching this in the next 60 years with, if they take anything away from this call, a feeling, a word of advice, anything, what would you leave them with? What would
Hmm.
you want them to remember?
Well, I'm gonna cheat and give them a couple things, not just one thing. I can't just leave one
Knock
thing.
yourself out.
All right, a couple little nuggets for you. One, tenacity. You know, I think I've gotten where I am because my superpower is not knowing when to stop. I just keep going because I'm like, I'm gonna get it eventually. I know I will. This unshakable faith that I have the ability. I know it's there. I just have to find the right person who agrees with me.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Tenacity. Don't give up. Keep on going. If you know in your soul that this is where you should be, then you should be.
Oh,
But learn along the way. Be humble with yourself and open to learning and constructive criticism and take it for what it is and grow, 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 grow. Be tenacious and constantly keep growing. And what was the other thing I was going to say? I don't remember. Oh, human narrators sharing human stories can never be replaced because that's something that we can connect with, that we can hear and feel in our souls, that no machine can ever replicate. They can get close, but there's always going to be something a little wonky
yeah.
that can't be replicated. Humans have a gift that can't be replicated.
We're sharing energy with the listener.
Yeah,
There's nothing that's the most amazing thing to me in the whole world, that connection. Our energy meets your energy.
yeah.
This has been a pure joy. I'm so glad we finally got to have this meet, and you got to come back sometime. It's been wonderful.
Thank you,
Thank you
Daniel. It's
so
been
much, Steve.
fantastic.
And thanks to the studio audience. You guys are gorgeous as always. Mwah! See you on the other side. Bye.